Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Happy Saturday. If you're watching this the day that it goes up, happy Saturday. If you're not, happy day of the week that you clicked on this. Let's talk about my reading plans for this video. So we have some book of the month books that have been either sitting on my shelf for a while or that I just got, which is this one. At the time that you're seeing this, I think this book has been out for like 2 weeks, so we'll discuss that in the video. These two have been sitting on my shelf for a long time. I think both of these are January picks. Yep. January 2021 and January 2022. So obviously we have some titles that I have been neglecting to read. I decided that it was time to get to these. So let me give you a rundown. I'm just going to talk to you about the order in which I'm going to read these in the video, and then we can get started. The first book I'm reading is Listen for the Light, which is this month's pick. It's 2 weeks old. It just came out. This is a thriller by Amy Tintera, obviously. We are following a woman named Lucy who is kind of going back to her hometown. She has moved away. She lives in Los Angeles, but she's going back to her hometown in Texas because her grandma is having an 80th birthday party. The issue is Lucy is pretty widely hated in this town because she is the only suspect in her best friend's murder, but they don't have enough evidence to arrest her. So this murder happened 5 years ago, I think. And now there's a podcaster in town that's kind of broadcasting this story and just making people loathe her even more. Obviously, Lucy herself is also very frustrated with this podcaster because she kind of feels like attention that she never wanted is being drawn to her, and she has no memory of the night that her friend was murdered. She doesn't know if she did it, she doesn't know if she doesn't, and she's gonna have to confront that past as she goes back to celebrate her grandma. I don't think I have anything else to say about this. That's the plot. Then I'm going to be reading The Magnolia Palace, which I'm filming this intro after the fact, so like I've already edited the whole video. I just didn't film an intro, so I'm doing that now. In the video, when I pitch this to you, I do not tell you the right plot of this, so we're going to rectify that right now and just ignore me when I give you the wrong pitch for this, okay? So this book is following two timelines. We're in Jazz Age New York. We're following Lillian, who is a sculpture model, so she's like the one that they hire to pose for them while they sculpt, and she ends up kind of having an issue at her current apartment because the building manager is murdered, and she somehow kind of gets drawn into that even though she had nothing to do with it. So she runs away essentially, and she happens upon this job at the Magnolia Palace, which is this very wealthy estate, and the daughter of this very wealthy man who's in her 30s but still lives at home because I think that was pretty standard in 1920s New York. Anyway, she is looking for someone to assist her. She's looking for a personal assistant to help her run the estate because her dad's getting pretty old. Lillian happens upon this job and she ends up getting it, and she kind of starts to learn the secrets about this family, and that maybe they're not as perfect as they seem. Conversely, we are also in the late 60s, early 70s with Veronica, who is a model from somewhere in Europe, and she's come for a Vogue photo shoot in this historic house, which has been converted to an art museum because the guy that originally built the house was a huge connoisseur of art. So she's there for her photo shoot. Things at her photo shoot kind of end up going wrong, and she ends up finding some clues in the house when she's been dismissed from her photo shoot that might lead to the missing diamond that was never reported missing but has never been seen since like the 1930s maybe. These storylines kind of converge, and we figure out what happened to the diamond, what becomes of Lillian, how Veronica's life is changed by this moment in time, and yeah. Lastly, I'm reading The Removed by Brandon Hobson. This is a super quick short book about this family whose son was killed, I think 10 or 15 years ago, and kind of how they are dealing with that grief. They are Cherokee, and their beliefs and their stories kind of converge as they're dealing with this grief, and they connect to the spiritual world as they try to find healing. Honestly, that's about it. That's the synopsis of this one, so I'm not going to say anything else. And let's go ahead and get started with this video. Yay. Quick update before I go to work. I am 120 pages into this, and I am loving this. It has been so long since I've read a thriller that's just made me want to read the whole book in one sitting. This is doing such a good job at everything that it's trying to do. The writing style of this is very unserious. Like, we're telling this mystery story and there's this podcast element and there's like so much mystery around what really happened because no one really knows what went down with this girly pop's murder. And our narrator, it's told in first person, Lucy is the main suspect in this murder, but she has amnesia from the night that her best friend was murdered. And so she's like, I don't know, maybe I did it, maybe I didn't. I'd like to know if I did it too. And she's just so like, it's not that serious, but like it is, but like it's not that serious. And it's just told in this humorous way. The first line of this book, it's just, I already knew that it was either going to be a huge hit or a huge miss. The first line is, a podcaster has decided to ruin my life, so I'm buying a chicken. I make plans for this chicken as I sit in my cubicle at Walter J. Brown Investment Services, waiting to be fired. It's just so silly and so goofy, and I'm loving the narration. It's not particularly advanced in writing style, but it's doing exactly what it's setting out to do, and it's doing it really well. I would also like to commend this author for how much she is including the podcast element in here. She is doing amazing. There is a podcast excerpt at the end of almost every single chapter that we get from Lucy's perspective. We're learning about all the players and all of the events leading up to this murder and those involved in the murder. And I am just so impressed. And as soon as I get home from work, which I'm leaving to go to work right now, but as soon as I get back, you better bet I'm going to sit down and read the rest of this baby tonight or until I fall asleep. And I'm just having the best time. I'm so glad that I decided to film this video. I feel like I've had a really slow start to my reading year. I haven't had a ton of success, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that this vlog is really successful and I just find some new favorites. So starting it off with a bang, I'll see you guys when I have an update on this, okay? Hi, it's very late at night, but I'm about 80 pages from the end, and I can honestly say I don't know where this is going. I have a prediction, but I don't think it's very solid, and I'm pretty sure that's not gonna be the twist, and I genuinely like don't know what to expect. We had a reveal, I think at about the 200 page mark, that I had absolutely no idea was coming. I mean, I'm calling it a reveal, not a plot twist, because it was something that I don't think we could have figured out on our own. I mean, maybe if you're like really smart, I don't know. I like to read thrillers and like not think about how it's gonna end too much and just like go along for the ride. I love Lucy's nonchalance narrating the stories. We've started to get a couple flashback chapters as well. The podcast is so super present. I really enjoy the relationship that's developing between Lucy and Ben. Ben is the podcast host. They have like a really fun banter, and Lucy's kind of realizing that people might actually believe her and not immediately assume that she killed Savvy. Again, I'm kind of in like spoiler territory now, so I want to keep this really vague and brief. And I'm also just very tired, but I'm definitely going to finish this first thing in the morning. I'm just like literally falling asleep as I'm reading. Not because the story's not entertaining, but just because I've been awake for a long time and I'm tired now. I also just want to note, and I'm pretty sure that this is in the synopsis, maybe it's not, but it should be. I just want to say that there should probably be a trigger warning in here for like abusive relationships, because that is something that's kind of present throughout here. It's not like the main focus of the story, but it's definitely something that's like brought up in here. So I just want to disclose that fully for anyone that could be offensive or hard to read for. And I'm still just loving this. Like, this is like sitting at like a 5-star right now, which is so amazing because thrillers very rarely get 5 stars from me, but this is doing everything right, nothing wrong. And I've already said this, but I really appreciate this for what it is. So I'll let you guys know in the morning when I finish this, but I just wanted to like hop on and say just a couple more things while the thoughts are still fresh in my mind, and I'm gonna go to sleep. So I'll see you in the morning. Good morning, friends. As promised, I did finish this as soon as I woke up this morning. This was so good. I'm giving this 4.5 stars. One thing I don't think I've talked about yet is that Lucy's relationship with her grandma is like a really strong aspect in this book, and I just love to see that. I have a soft spot for grandmas because my grandma is the best in the whole world, and I feel like we don't really see in like thrillers or like non-fantasy books really strong relationships with grandparents, and I just really appreciate that this took the time to do that. I loved the way that Lucy and Ben were working together to like figure out what really happened and help Lucy confront her past. Cat. I loved the narration style, super short chapters, super easy to get through, easy to read, easy to consume. I just had so much fun with this, and I am so impressed. This is this author's first thriller that she's ever written. I think she usually writes like sci-fi fantasy series. I kind of was checking out her backlist because I was like, this is so good. Has she written any other thrillers that I might want to check out? And she hasn't, but I hope that this encourages her to write another one because I would absolutely read it. This also has an amazing rating on Goodreads. I think this has like a 4.4 or 4.3 on Goodreads, which is pretty stunning for a thriller. I would say maybe like 5 thrillers in my entire life have been rated that highly. So I really hope that that's encouraging for her and she chooses to continue on this path and write something else in the same genre because she just did this so well. If you like a podcast element in a book, but you feel like the ones you've been reading don't have enough podcast engagement or the podcast isn't actually in there enough, I would highly recommend this because again, the podcast is such an integral part of this. I would say we get probably like 50, that might be a little high. How many chapters are in this book? Okay, I'm close. There's 50 chapters in this book and we get a podcast excerpt at the end of almost every single chapter. This was done so well and I'm so glad that this is the first book that I read of this video. Next, I think I'm going to pick up The Magnolia Palace by Fiona Davis. This is a dual timeline set in kind of contemporary, or maybe not contemporary, maybe it's like the 70s and also like Jazz Age America in New York. There's a murder, and then in the more current timeline, which I really do think is in the 70s. Yep, 50 years later. So the original timeline is set in the 20s, 50 years later, we're in the 70s. This girlie who I think she's a model is in this house that's been turned into a museum for a photo shoot, and she ends up kind of stumbling onto some cryptic messages and some secrets, and I bet she's gonna solve this murder that didn't get solved, or maybe the murder already got solved. I don't want to go in knowing a ton about this. I always like historical fiction, especially when there's like a murder mystery element, so I'm really excited to get started on this today. Really quickly also, I just wanted to, because we're talking about like a true crime podcast for this book, I just wanted to recommend some of my favorites because I love a true crime podcast. My 2 favorites right now are Anatomy of Murder, which is hosted by a girlie who's a host of one of the shows on Investigation Discovery, and then she's also a retired prosecutor and then also a retired homicide detective. That one's really good. I think that they have a really good banter and I always enjoy listening to it. And then also Voices for Justice, which is told by a woman whose own sister has gone missing, and she has a pretty good idea of what's happened to her sister, but I don't think have ever found her sister's body. It's a pretty famous case. Sarah Turney is who the host of the podcast is. Anyway, she mostly talks about like disappearances and unsolved cases versus Anatomy of Murder, which talks about solved cases and like how the prosecution and the detectives like worked together on those cases. So it's kind of more of a legal focus for that one, and then more of a do you know anything focus for Voices of Justice. And then I also love Campus Crime Chronicles. I think that's what it's called. And I don't know who the host of that is actually. It's one that I've started listening to more recently, but she talks about just a bunch of random murders and other crime that's happened on university campuses. So that one's also really good. I think she does a great job narrating. Well, I do appreciate when podcast hosts obviously like interview people. It is so annoying to me when they do it over the phone. Like I just hate the audio of that. And this girl doesn't actually interview people very often. She just is kind of recapping pretty famous cases. So I really enjoy that aspect because her narration and her like clear vocals are not interrupted by like scratchy phone calls where you can't really understand what the people are saying. So anyway, those are my recommendations for true crime podcasts. I'm gonna get started on the Magnolia Palace. I'll talk to you guys when I have something to say. Hi, same day, different outfit. I'm actually ready for the day now. I read the first 100 pages of this. It's fine. It has a really slow start, so I'm hoping that things are gonna pick up now. We have a lot to learn about this house that, hold on. We have a lot to learn about the house that Lillian is working in and that Veronica is doing her photo shoot in. Nothing
of the mystery has actually happened so far. Like, literally all that's happened is the murder happens in Lillian's building, so she leaves, and she happens upon this woman who lives in this very prestigious area in this very large house, who's looking to hire like a maid, not even a maid, like a lady in waiting, I don't know, someone to run the estate with her. So she goes for the interview. She pulls it off, she gets the job, and she's just like learning about this wealthy family and how they're like not as perfect as they seem. Veronica so far has had her photo shoot, and I thought this was a good stopping point because she just got locked in the house, which has now been converted to an art museum because the family was a pretty big connoisseur of art, so they have a lot of really wealthy pieces in the home. So the home's been converted, it's a museum now. She went there for her photo shoot. She like got in trouble during her photo shoot because she was talking back to the photographer. So she like was separated from the group of girls as they were finishing their photo session. The like director of the museum or whoever was there like didn't notice that she wasn't part of the group, and they locked her in, and since the building's really old, she like can't get out from the inside, which, okay, I feel like that's not true. Supposedly she's like stuck in this house and there's no way for her to get out, so she has to wait until they open the next day. So she's in there for overnight, and she's just stumbled across a bunch of papers that were kind of hidden away. We don't know what the papers say yet. We don't really have any of the mystery element yet. Like, I'm just bored. This book is only 340 pages, and like nothing's happened in the first 100 pages. I understand that we had to set up the house and we kind of have to get a feel for each of these women as characters, but I feel like in 100 pages we should have a little more plot development. You know what I mean? If we're pitching this as a historical mystery, which it is. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't think I'm gonna read any more of this today because I'm just like, I just want to listen to an audiobook that's fast-paced and easy to get through and not really read any more of this. So this is not going as well as Listen for the Lie, which is unfortunate, especially because I usually generally really enjoy historical fiction. So fingers crossed that this picks up. I still have 240 pages to change my mind about it, so you know, not set in stone yet, but as of right now it's like not set up to be rated very highly.
Kitty, you are so cute. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Good morning. She's so goofy. She's so goofy. Don't look at my socks. They're really ugly. Good morning.
Good morning. It is Sunday morning. The last time I talked to you was like Friday afternoon, maybe. I didn't read any of this yesterday, but I did spend the morning out on my patio reading this morning. It was like 50 degrees outside. I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt. Like, life is good. It is supposed to get freezing again next week, but we're enjoying the 3 nice sunny days that were granted. This is still like just not doing it for me. I think I said that I'm 2/3 of the way through, but if I didn't, I'm 2/3 of the way through. And oh my God, I'm just like so bored. Like, I feel like the stakes aren't high enough for me to care. Like, the characters in both timelines have their issues. I'm definitely preferring the like 1920s timeline with Lillian over the late 60s, early 70s timeline with Veronica. Veronica's timeline is just like, I don't even really understand why it was necessary in this book. And that's like annoying to me because I'm like, why are we going to the effort of having her chapters if it's literally just for convenience? Because we're figuring out everything Veronica's figuring out in Lillian's timeline before Veronica figures it out. So I'm like, what's the point of having Veronica's timeline if Lillian's timeline is giving us all the same information before Veronica's timeline? Like, we're not getting anything new from that. And I kind of just like don't really have anything to say about this because it's just like so fine. It's sitting at like a 2.75, maybe 3 stars. I don't know. I don't have a lot of hope for this changing. I am gonna finish it because we've already read so much of it for the video that we might as well just knock it out. But I'm just like not really having a fun time anymore. You know what I mean? The pacing is very slow, and like I was saying, the stakes are like, the actual events in the story are like kind of major for these characters' lives, but the way that the writing is telling the story is making it feel like it's not high stakes, and it's like way too slowly paced for it to feel as dramatic as it actually is, if that makes sense. I'm gonna finish this maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe not till later this week, but I'm gonna finish this and I'll let you know when I have final thoughts. Hey, same day, different outfit. I just got home, but I just wanted to say that the sunsets have been so good the past couple days, and I kept meaning to say that in like the clips that I was taking, and then I kept forgetting, and I just forgot in the last clip as well. But then on my way home, the sunset was so good, so I took a video of it. So please enjoy this sunset montage that I made for you with the videos that I've been taking over the past couple evenings, okay? Morning. Quick update. I did finish this yesterday night. I didn't want to talk to you guys about it because I just didn't really have anything nice to say about it, and I still don't really have anything nice to say about it. So sorry. I didn't like this, and it was too long, but it wasn't even a long book. It's like 340 pages, but it felt way too long. The last 100 pages, I felt like I really saw where everything was going, and they didn't need to be there. I feel like if this was written as a novella or even like a 250-page book, this could have been really successful. But there were a ton of random details in here that I just didn't need. And while I did find the focus on the art in here very interesting, because the sprawling mansion is filled with like a complete art collection, and that's like a big part of the story. And obviously, Lillian is like a sculpture model, so she's very connected to the art as well, and I thought that that was interesting, but I was like, I don't, like, what is this trying to be? Because if this is going to be about art, let's make it about art. Let's not make it about a jewel theft, question mark. A missing jewel, question mark. I don't really know. This book is honestly kind of hard to pitch because there's like a lot of things going on off page, but like not a lot going on page. I don't know. I'm just really struggling to talk about this, and I tend to struggle to talk about books that I don't like very much. I'm giving this 2.5 stars, and I'm gonna move on from this now. The last book I'm reading for this video is The Removed by Brandon Hobson. This is I guess it's just a literary fiction with some, I believe they're Cherokee. Let me see real quick. I don't want to get that wrong. Okay, yes, Cherokee folklore, kind of folk tales, legends are tied into this. So I'm excited to learn about that because I don't know about Cherokee legends. I just don't have the knowledge on that. Shockingly, I did go to school for archaeology, but could not tell you about the beliefs of this tribe. So anyway, we're following this family. Their son has died, I think, like 15 years ago in a police altercation that ended poorly, and we're just following the perspectives of the parents now, I believe, or just the entire family, and them kind of coping with it, finding aspects of their mythology and their kind of cultural heritage in the years preceding his death. Following his death. I'm a little out of it today, you guys, so I am like super allergic to like burning, like smoke, and since the weather's been nice, literally everyone in the entire valley burned yesterday, so my nose is like super stuffy today, and I'm like losing my voice a little bit. I'm not sick, I don't feel bad, I just like, the smoke is suffocating me, you know? So that's kind of where I'm at. This book is really short, 250 pages. I should be able to cruise through it within a couple days, and then we can talk about it when I have something to say. In other news, I just went and signed off my tax returns today. I'm getting a refund, a very, very small refund, but it's good because I don't owe anything, and that makes me feel joyful. So that's about all the news I have for the day. I'm gonna read now, and I'll update you guys when I have something to say. Hi, I'm sitting outside work, but I have a little bit of time before I have to actually go inside. So I just thought that I would update you on the removed. I am 20% in, and so far, like, nothing's really happened. We're just learning about the family, like, as they're dealing with their grief. And I'm just gonna put it out there that none of them are handling it very well. We are, like, I think I already mentioned this, but we're already, like, I think 10 or 15 years past the original day that the brother died. I'm not 100% sure, but like a significant amount of time has passed. Mom is just like wandering through life. The dad has Alzheimer's. The brother is addicted to meth. And the sister is, I don't want to say preying on younger men because they are legal, but she just went on this like monologue in the chapter that I read from her where she was talking about how much she admires this author that was like romantically involved with a 15-year-old boy. And I'm like, girl, what? And she's like, she's just the best author. She writes so well about like sexual attraction. And I'm like, girl, are you okay? Are you all right? I don't know. So anyway, the family has a host of issues, and that's where I'm at right now. So that's really all I have to say, but yeah, I'm gonna go to work now, okay? Hey y'all, good morning. I am 150 pages into this, so like 100 pages out from the end. This book is weird. It's weird. The setup of it is weird. The characters themselves are all kind of finding a different connection to the spiritual world and the Cherokee myths that are obviously very foundational in their culture. They're nearing the death date of their brother, which coincides with the Cherokee national holiday. And as this date gets nearer and nearer, they're all finding like little things that are like very connected to these myths. The brother right now is actually, I don't know exactly how he ended up here. I'm assuming he like maybe had a meth overdose, or I don't know. He's in this like between life and death state right now, in this kind of middle ground spiritual world that he is trying to figure out how to get out of. And Sonia, the sister, is finding these kind of weird like apparitions and feelings about her relationship with this man. And then the parents have taken on a foster kid, just a temporary placement. The mom used to work as a social service agent of some kind, and she's retired now, but she was asked if she could host this foster child for a couple of days until his mom gets back from being out of state. So she said yes. And she's finding like a lot of really odd similarities between him and her deceased son. So anyway, they're all kind of finding these connections as the death date approaches. I completely understand why people dislike this. Like it's weird. The way that the story itself is just being told is odd. I'm really enjoying, we get these little chapters, I would say every like 4 or 5 chapters, where we learn about a new Cherokee myth, and then it somehow ties into the next section, and we kind of get to see how that myth is being brought into the lives of these characters. And I really appreciate that. I just wish that there was more of that and we were getting more explanation, or not even explanation, but just more time with these myths. Like, I just like don't love any of the family as characters. The mom's okay. The rest of the characters are kind of just like, I don't have any emotional connection to them. Like, I don't feel anything that they're feeling. So I'm feeling kind of just surface level about this as far as that goes. Completely understand why this has a fairly low rating on Goodreads. It's sitting at like a 3-star for me right now. It's not doing anything like terribly wrong, but it's just I'm having a hard time connecting. So that's where I'm at. I am on my way out now. I have a quick meeting today. I might be applying to mortuary school, but I need to decide by next week because that's the deadline. So I'm running over to the funeral home today and chatting about that. And then I'll come back home and I'll try to finish this before work. I don't know how long that meeting's gonna take, so I don't know if I'll have enough time to finish this later today. If not, I'll talk to you about it in the morning. It's obviously the next day. I did finish this yesterday, but very, very late. My meeting went really well, and I think I'm gonna apply to mortuary school this fall, so that's exciting. I don't know if any of you actually care about that. So moving on, this is 3 stars. This was fine. I think that everything I said at that last check-in still holds up throughout the end. This does a great job of talking about grief and reflecting on grief and showing the different ways that grief can manifest itself, but I felt like the story was trying to tackle too many other issues and then didn't discuss them fully enough for them to be present. In particular, and I've seen a couple other reviews on Goodreads that felt this way too, so I know that I'm not alone in this. I felt like the sister Sonia's storyline, like, just didn't need to be in here or needed to be done in a different way because it didn't really add anything to the story other than just her being the sister. And the way that her story kind of went didn't really make sense for what the story was trying to do. So well, I think that this did a great job, you know, talking about Cherokee stories, and I think that this did a good job in incorporating those stories into the characters' lives. I didn't think that this was overall connected enough. I didn't feel that the chapters were like leading up to something. I felt like we just kept kind of getting these slice of lives for the different family members, but they never really connected or fully healed from that grief, which I wasn't expecting them to make a miraculous recovery, right? But I felt like the mom storyline and the Cherokee stories could have made this book so much better if those were the only 2 perspectives that we kind of got. I didn't love the brothers storyline. Again, that was kind of the weirdest part of this book, but the way that the author chose to invent this place between life and death, this liminal space, was not crafted in a way, again, that I felt like really made sense for the story. The writing itself was great, fantastic. It had a great flow, but the storytelling is where I really had the issue and where I was feeling that kind of disjointedness. This was by no means a bad book, but it just didn't do enough for me, or maybe it was trying to do too much for me to give it anything above a 3. So we're sitting at a 3 for this girly. We had neither a win nor a loss with this book. I consider anything that's a 3-star just like middle of the road fine. And I don't think we can really attribute that to either a success or a failure. Like, it just was what it was, and that's okay. The Magnolia Palace was a loss, and Listen for the Lie was a win. So we had really the full spectrum in this video. I'm planning to do a couple more of these videos as well, where I just catch up on the book of the month books that I haven't read. I appreciate you guys for watching my video. Gigi says hi. She's so cute. We love her. Look at her little face. Look at her little face. Look at her chin. I'll see you in another video soon. Bye.